Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Maui, Hawaii, United States of America. July 23rd, 2021. Today is a unique day in Buddhist cultures, Buddhist countries. It's the first day of the Wasa, the beginning of the rains retreat for nuns and monks, to abide in one location to as actively pursue the Dhamma as they know it. Beautiful period of time. It's also the day of the first Dhamma talk, the first discourse attributed to the teachings of the Buddha, to the Buddha himself, some 26 centuries ago. And I'd like to interweave several different key themes important to me today. The power of the retreat, the Wasa, the first Dhamma talk attributed to the Buddha, its influence on me, and symbolically what it represents, and literally to my own humble understanding. Yesterday I learned that the notorious insane prison in Rangoon, where the vast majority of the revolutionaries in Myanmar today are being incarcerated, where they're being routinely tortured, and where there is a massive COVID outbreak all throughout the prisons and throughout the country of Burma. They protested in unison, singing a revolutionary song. And I listened to it through a videotape that was near the prison. And it moved me into something deeper, more radiant than tears, but in inspiration to know that I am in solidarity with these people as brothers and sisters in revolution for freedom and democracy, that we're relatives by birth, being human on this planet. And it brought up the issue of revolutionary action against all odds on this sacred day at the beginning of the Rains Retreat, and the day attributed to the first discourse, the first verbal sharing of the Buddha's awakening to 5 friends, known as the Dhammacakka Sutta. So the interweaving of these things, and the title of today's sharing, it just came to me a few minutes ago. What would be my most important sharing? And I don't say that this is it, but I put that question before myself today because of the revolutionary radical behavior of the inmates, the prisoners of conscience in insane prison, in the insane township in Rangoon, Myanmar, a prison that filled to capacity with 13,000 prisoners. We have revolutionaries, men and women, monks and nuns, boys and girls of all walks of life in Burma being incarcerated because of their conscience, their dignity, their resolve to elevate the status of freedom over fear in their own heart and mind, and to live and abide and to speak and to act in revolutionary ways that defy dictatorship, totalitarianism, and the march of the Fourth Reich through Burma today, inspired by Xi Jinping in China and Putin in Russia. So the 10 lessons, I feel, 10 life lessons, I called it, of a Dhamma rebel, a Dhamma maverick. And I mean by that word is just simply someone willing, you, me, our friends, willing to empower our uniqueness, our unrelenting unwillingness to abide by the conformity of either conditions that are culturally or politically or sexually or romantically or spiritually or existentially sanctioned by the church of four walls called the dogma of my religion that's unrecognized because I walk in lockstep to orthodoxy. We're unique creatures dancing on an infinite stage set of, as I posted the other day, photonic molecules, light beams that illuminate this holographic, organic, blood, liquid, oozing, cognitive, flesh-draped spiritual entity called you and me, making sense of infinity. What will we do with the preciousness of the day? So, I'm thinking of my way of attributing life to the Buddhist texts. And here, a tradition 2,600 years old, based around an individual called Gautama Siddhartha, who was said to have left his convenient life and chose to walk in fidelity, if you will, to his instinct for freedom. I think the root of all 10 lessons for me, life lessons, are accentuating, living, breathing, anointing, ascending, rooting in this instinct for freedom. We're all obviously born into bodies, compelled often against our own will to abide in relationship to these intrinsic instincts found within the human psyche, within the substratum of the DNA. The instinct to move, the instinct to think, the instinct to eat and to bathe and to stay as clean as possible, the instinct to procreate, the instinct to rest, abide, and to sleep, the instinct to dream, the instinct to liberate ourselves from the envenerating conditions of conflict, of violence, that deep mystical root, that instinct for freedom. May I encourage you to encourage me, to encourage our friends, the Church of Liberty, the Church of Freedom, using our own liberty, as Aung San Suu Kyi said, using our liberty to help support the freedom of others. That instinct for freedom. None of us like to be deprived of food, of shelter, of company, of beauty, of love, of intimacy, of trust. That instinct for freedom to abide in unity and peace and beauty. May I encourage you to abide first and foremost in your instinct for freedom. The 10 life lessons, not to keep you on the edge of this digital cliff. Let me just say them briefly, and then let me just play in the illumination of them for the remainder of this short talk. And I'm not sure that there are any order to them. To know your own mind is a common one for me. To know your own mind, to know what you're doing, to know the nature of your own thought, the content of consciousness, to know the content of consciousness, to know the states of mind within one's own consciousness, to know the constellations of psychological, emotional patterning, the formations of thought, thoughts of judgment, thoughts of goodwill, thoughts of love, thoughts of compassion, thoughts of patience, thoughts of revolution, determination, of thoughts of uniqueness, thoughts, the formation of energetic frequencies within consciousness, and to know that Dhamma literacy, that Dhamma topography, to know your own mind. We could never say enough about it. To know what you're doing when you're reaching for something. Know that you're reaching for something. Know when you're saying something that's detrimental to you or someone else, that you have the courage to actually infiltrate that thought formation and feel the nature of that thought on the level of its own intrinsic characteristics. That is an unprofitable thought, Alan. You know from your mindful reflection of the content of that type of thought and the frequencies embedded in the emotionality of that thought formation to restrain it, to know your own mind, what to keep, what to evolve, what to let go of, what not to pick up, to know the contents of one's own mind, to inhabit beautiful states, to know how to courageously relax conflict in denigrating states of mind. Point 1, to know your own mind. Know what you're doing. Be mindful, life lesson 2. Looking for freedom, we find it within. Be mindful. Looking for freedom in the world, in things, in people, in wealth and status, in beauty, and all the attributes that we find in other, that we project back onto ourselves and verify our evidence of identity based upon pride and comparison. But no, finding or looking for freedom, we find it within. Be mindful of what liberates consciousness regardless of money, profit, privilege. Money, profit, privilege. Money, profit, privilege. So convenient are these states of mind found within culture, and to distinguish the edge between what is propaganda and what truly is the freedom to breathe in your own sense of self-respect. Looking for freedom, we find it in self-respect. Are the qualities that I am reflecting back to determine my worth, are they noble qualities, or are they inherited beliefs and conditions brought forth by the propaganda of profit and privilege and all the various things that come from the outer world of commerciality and commodification and of capitalism or of totalitarianism? Be mindful is the takeaway here. When I reach for the camera, when I wash my face, when I choose this particular piece of food in the market, when I turn the page of a book, when I choose the letters on my phone to text someone, knowing what I do is to be mindful of the motivation, of the states of mind, and the intention, the timing, the tone, the space, the choice of words, the timing, the attachment to outcome. Being mindful is to know these various components within the human mind, your mind, my mind. Be mindful. Life lesson number 2 of a Dhamma rebel. 3, take refuge in the Dhamma. Take refuge in the Dharma. To me, what that means is to take refuge in 3 basic behavioral patterns. Dana, the behavioral pattern of generosity. Generosity with your speech, generosity with your actions, generosity with your belongings, generosity with your patience, generosity with your life. Dana, making your being an expression of openness, generosity of heart, generosity of thought, generosity of time. Taking the conditionality out of the space with your friends, with your lovers, with your pets, with your heartbeat. Being more and more in the unconditional support of making good on the promise of the vocation of a noble human. What do? My life is an expression of my values. I take refuge in the Dhamma. I take rootedness in my principles as the vocation of my dignity and my conscience. Dhamma. Dhamma in a classical Pali term means two things. An individual, a woman, a man, dedicated to her best ability, to his best ability to overcome denigrating states of consciousness. States of consciousness, SOCs. States of mind, SOMs. On the one hand, overcoming denigrating SOMs. On the other hand, elevating powerful, beautiful states of consciousness. Know the attributes that denigrate, know the attributes that elevate. Taking refuge in Dhamma is to take deep refuge in the overcoming and the elevation of conflict and of beauty. Dana, Sila, Bhavana. Sila. Something beautiful about trust. Something beautiful about transparency. There's something beautiful about accountability. There's something beautiful about reconciliation. Something beautiful about ethical intelligence. There's something beautiful about moral wisdom. Courageous, ethical, principled presence. Courageous, ethical, principled presence. You are a citadel of honesty. I can go to her and get an answer that is truthful regardless of the content. Wow. We go to therapists, we go to Dharma teachers, we go to various people who claim excellence in their craft or in their learning because there's a sense of trust in their knowledge, in their ethical presence, and their commitment to courageously root themselves regardless of profit, privilege, or circumstance, that today the way that they think and believe and root themselves in truthfulness and in ethical intelligence, regardless, they're incorruptible. Something so beautiful about that. Incorruptible. Yes, we break, we dissect. There are times in which we rupture from our integrity. But how beautiful it is to stumble along the journey of life, to get back up. A friend picks you up and says, you know, I made a mistake. I did it wrong. I was befuddled by compromise and I took the wrong path and here I am. Thank you very much. I've grown in Sila, ethical intelligence. Point 3, life lesson 3 of a Dhamma maverick rebel. I take refuge in Dhamma. Dana, generosity. Sila, principled presence, ethical courage, moral wisdom. And the last, bhavana. What do? I cultivate bhavana. What do? I choose the states of consciousness that I find the most sensual, the most aesthetically pleasing, and in my own humble cognitive, physical, auditory artistry, I choose to inhabit those beautiful states, bhavana, beautiful states of mind, bhavana, the beautification of interiority, the beautification of simultaneity, the beautification of confluence of interiority with exteriority, the confluence of the senses meeting self and the confluence of our senses meeting other than self. And there we play in the field of bhavana, the beautification of SOM, states of mind. What are they for you? Authenticity. Authenticity without dignity and conscience could easily be contrived and polluted, so to speak, with pride or ego or even narcissism. Look at the confidence of dictatorship: Stalin, Mao, Xi Jinping, Ming Online, Ceausescu. Look at these people, rooted in a diabolical, toxic certainty about their rightness, taking refuge in the Dhamma, and the practice of the beautification of mind is knowing very clearly on a mindful level. Point 2, be mindful. Life lesson 2, be mindful, looking for freedom. We find it within. Bhavana is discerning. Nope. That is pride. That is patience. That is toxic. That is liberating. How do you know that? Trial and error. Bhavana is practice. The devil, it said, is in the details. Bhavana is the beautification of the details of being. As I attend to my sleep and to my cleanliness, to my hygiene, to my tone, to my organizational needs for food, for water, for shelter, for accountability, for finances, for sensitivities to intimacy, all the various things that define a day in the life and a life in the day, all come with the details. Bhavana is hypersensitivity to nuance. The way a lover speaks to you, a way a lover touches you, a way in which you and a lover interrelate in loverness. The nuances, the details, the beautification, the erotification, the romanticizing, whatever you need to do to create aesthetics within consciousness that beautify is bhavana. May I encourage you, please, write down the attributes in your life that you most aspire to evolve. Authenticity, integrity, generosity, truthfulness, patience, the willingness to abide in complexity for the purpose of learning, loving kindness, an unconditional willingness to seek and to support and to actualize on your intention the happiness of another. Bring food to her, bring gifts to him, anoint your relationships with all that you would want for yourself, and let us learn the deep transcendental art of overcoming centrifugal self-centeredness and begin to practice the timeless asana of generosity, the asana of moral integrity, and the asana of the beautification of states of mind. Life lesson number 4. Make each person you meet your ultimate object of reverence. I'm quoting here something attributed to the teachings of the Buddha when he was asked, according to a commentarial paragraph that I've read, what was the most defining attitude that you brought to your journey as a bodhisattva, a being committed to Buddhahood? making all circumstances, good, bad, and obstacles, transformational opportunities to develop the 10 paramis, the 10 beautiful states of mind. I made each person I met along my journey the place to enact higher radiant states of truth, freedom, and beauty. Call it the non-segregated, non-apartheid approach to interbeing. Why is someone at the checkout counter less profound than someone you've been drawn to on Tinder? I mean, hello, where are you, dude? I mean, there's a big difference. Really? But isn't everything an act of God and grace if we see that our lover is totality and she's included and he's included, and the birds and the skies and the wind and the waves, the hummingbirds, the cat, even the roosters, all sentient, all beings, all molecules, all neutrinos. We are alive in this God complex, this goddess plex, this individuals that we meet. Hello, hi, namaste. I see the God in you as the goddess in me, and together we're dancing in the Ubuntuification of this beautiful space of making you the ultimate object of transformational awakening. Reverence. Reverence to me means transformational opportunity to make this an enlightening experience. I love playing that level of not high stakes, but intimate, psychedelic stakes that makes this space with you. Why am I bored? Because I don't have the wherewithal a lot of the time to rise up into the highest patterns of my truth and bring it to the forefront of my life, so I think I'm bored or restless. I think I need to meditate more, do yoga more, fast more, sleep more, be in another location, have more money, less this, that, more. However, reverence means wherever you are, Alan, rise into the fidelity of taking refuge in Dhamma. Dana, Sila, Bhavana. No time off Dhamma. But yes, I want to meet her. I want to meet the God, goddess of my dreams. Be the chemistry. How many times have you said in your life? Be the chemistry that you seek. Making each person you meet is basically saying wherever you are is the opportunity of a lifetime. Can we live in that level of high fidelity on Broadway all the time? Go for it on the stage of wherever you are. Sing loudly, right? Make each person you meet. I want to listen carefully here. I want to understand the power of language, of tone and timing. I want to consecrate this experience with you, sister, brother, lover, friend, enemy, stranger. Yes, with skillfulness and appropriateness. You don't just walk down the street and say, I love you. Well, you do in Maui. Why not do it all over the world? Why not do it so well that you blow the circuits of mediocrity right out of the floor of your own denial, and you go, why wait for enlightenment when I'm with you? Take it higher. Life lesson number 5 for a Dhamma rebel. Learn the art of the question. I take that right out of the playbook of the Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel, the Holocaust survivor. Having seen the devil in certainty, the devil in absolutism, the evil in totalitarianism, Third Reich, Fourth Reich, Fifth Reich, Sixth Reich, dictatorship is the opposite of vulnerability, of curiosity, of wonderment, of the question. The question, not interrogating people like, but curiosity, inquiry. It's so beautiful to share time and space with someone, no matter how long you've known or how little time you've known him or her, where the space is anointed, I would use the word, with tender interest, curious inquiry, playful styles of interactive learning through feeling, tasting, smelling, questioning, feeling, anointing, listening, sharing, questioning, coming back to that fundamental place in life lesson number 5, the art of the question. And one couldn't really share this life lesson, and I'll go over these another time and another day. The power, that's what it is, the power of language. The question is really, the etymology of the question is seeking soul information, seeking feeling, wanting to learn from the other. So I'm asking, I'm humble enough to curiously anoint the shared space with deep interest to know who you are, why you think, why you believe that, where you've come from, who are your parents, what did you learn, how did you fear, what have you grown in areas in your life that you most admire, where do you see courage, how do you feel the shadow, do you deceive yourself, have you lied, how have you learned to courageously challenge untruthfulness, have you made mistakes? I want to learn from you. I want to learn to love you. I want to include every aspect of you. The beauty of self-questioning and the beauty of bringing question to the forefront of our space with each other. And number 6 is very connected to making each person our ultimate object of reverence, is the power of noble friendship. These are the rare individuals in our life that, I want to use the word here carefully, that consistently show up. That's a lifelong evaluation of the meaning of that, no doubt. I don't think any of us could ever perfect that. But the challenge is there, nonetheless, to discover the attributes of noble friendship in our life. I think they should be and are unique to each of us. What do you love about the 4, 5, 3, 2, 7, 2, 3, 2, 3 cherished friends, noble friends? How are you evolving those qualities into more expanded dimensions of value? How are you beautifying the friendship? There's something in that process that, despite our adventures, our journeys, our lovers, our parents, our families, our children, there's something in that word, noble friendship. I come back to the teachings of Dhamma through the Buddha, a story that I've said so many times that I'll never stop sharing. His friend Ananda asked him, or said to him, "Sir, it seems to me that at least half of the Dhamma life is noble friendship." And the Buddha was said to have said, "No, Ananda, the entirety of the Dhamma life is noble friendship." That's really amazing. There's something so spectacular about really anointing relational consciousness and attributing that relational consciousness to such a heightened level that we label it as a noble relational conscious friendship. And to bring dana, sila, bhavana, take refuge in Dhamma, in evolving relational noble friendship consciousness. Make a yoga practice, a meditative Dhamma life practice out of noble friendship, rather than things or belongings or all the things in form, which yes, they have value depending on how well we use them and share them, but the real gifts of life are each other. That's stating something so obvious and so easily undervalued. But the developmental beauty of how to increase their radiance, that dialogue and that yoga, that meditation, I don't know how you could find it. You can't do acid without putting acid on your tongue. You can't do Dhamma unless you breathe it as oxygen. And it's a molecule, it's a set of molecules, and the Dhamma life is a discernible set of a discernible set of formations that can be discovered and redeveloped, because they are the ways in which consciousness is understood on its causal level, Dhamma literacy. It can be developed. So let me move along here. Noble friendship. 7 is so easily overlooked, is the Dhamma life lesson, the life lesson, number 7. Abide and evolve in your uniqueness. That's it. When you stand, when you walk, when you talk, when you dress, when you undress, when you bathe, when you lather, when you brush, when you write, when you text, when you read, when you listen, when you self-pleasure, when you make love, when you say I love you, when you listen, when you sit, when you do an asana, one little movement of a finger, when you, as you do it in your own unique, artistic, aesthetic that empowers taking refuge in Dhamma, dana, sila, bhavana. Do dana uniquely. Do ethical intelligence uniquely. In other words, the opposite of uniqueness in its most extreme form is dictatorship, the absence of uniqueness, the absence of wonderment, the absence of the spiritual. Certainty, conformity, predictability, the propaganda of belonging to the cult of repetition, where the denial of innocence and vulnerability and risk and uniqueness are subjugated based on needing to fit into what? The fear of torture if you don't belong to the cult of dictatorship in Burma? Well, guess what? We'll fill the prisons filled and sing our revolutionary songs despite what you're doing to us. You can assassinate our heads, but you can't kill the beauty of our hearts, right? That's what they're saying. Uniqueness, crashing down the orthodoxy of the church, of belonging to the four walls of tradition and dogma. Take it out of the stone, right? Release the sword from the stone, as it's been said. Release the need for fixation. Challenge the suburb of conformity. And we all love that. We all love breaking free. Sometimes, the diagnoses of something is so liberating. I no longer have to live 9 to 5. I am released from mortality. So whatever it is to break out of the PTSD of ordinary, of conformity, of predictability, it's very traumatic to fit ourselves as dynamic, human, pulsating expressions of God into the armor of capitalistic, predictable culture. The car, the fossil fuel, the store, the four walls, all that. I feel it so often with the, like, I remember being on acid right now and feeling the fabric as being wrong for my skin. People that are wrong for my reverence, for my ethics, my uniqueness. I don't want to transform your sorry ass. Go find a therapist, go find a teacher, go find a guru, go to India, do everything you need to do. But get out of my presence, right? That's how we need to talk to ourselves. Shed those skins. Who are you really in there? What does authenticity mean beyond the word to be celebrated? What will you really think and say and write if you really gave yourself the liberty to be on your Broadway right now? What would you sing without rehearsal? Okay, uniqueness. Whew. Life lesson number 8, on the courage never to give up. On the courage never to give up. On the courage never to give up. On the courage never to give up on what? Never to give up on your own sense of worth. Never to give up on your own sense of integrity. Never to give up on your own sense of accountability. Never to give up on your own sense of employing mindfulness to more courageously look at the thought stream, the speech stream, the action stream, and to realize that the thought is infiltrated with fear, greed, and delusion. Cease it. Never to give up on your capacity to mindfully cease denigrating thought, speech, and action, and never to give up on your power to abide and evolve beautiful states of mind. Refuge and Dhamma. You can see how these 10 life lessons are all kind of interwoven into everything. Number 9 is to live in dignity and in conscience, to live in dignity and in conscience. These words came to me through my study back in the mid-80s, late 80s, early 90s of a simple doctrine called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, brought forth by the late Eleanor Roosevelt and many women and men around the world to be the inalienable rights of all human beings born into this world, regardless of religion, economic status, ethnicity. 30 articles, 30 sonic hymns of the soul that all living creatures are entitled to regardless of XYZ. Think of the abuse of this 3-page doctrine, these 30 articles, the blueprint for civilized human existence in the world, in our countries, on this planet. All beings have the right to freedom of mind, thought, and safety and religion, except all the animals that we factory farm every day around the world, we manufacture to kill to satisfy our need for meat, fish, and fowl. Except for all the trees, the shrubs, the bushes, the grains that we're killing at such a rapid pace that many scientists, thought leaders, and people around the world who study climate exhaustion and collapse say that we're well into the 6th mass extinction because we do not understand the universal declaration of animal and nature and human and cosmological and deva and deity rights, the interrelatedness of the sanctity of life. Live in dignity and conscience. How do we understand the yoga asana of stature, of self-respect, not placing, as Jesus said, our wealth and our worth where dust and rust doth corrupt? Look at how we evaluate our family, our brothers, our sisters, our daughters, our parents, our teachers, on how well do they accumulate wealth and privilege and profit and accumulations of stocks that have gone through the roof that are all flukes. And you create a castle of self-identity and worth that's undignified without conscience. The capacity of the human mind to know right from wrong. How many of us have studied the Holocaust literature, the lives of prisoners of conscience, all that they have left as they go to the gallows, to the executioner's wall, to the guillotine, to the gas chamber, to the infernos of fear. All that they have left is their dignity and their conscience. You can take everything from me, but you cannot take my dignity and my conscience, nor my freedom away unless I give you my dignity, unless I give away my conscience and I give away my freedom. Why wait until the castle is burning, the planet is no more, until we empower these timeless, radiant virtues of dignity and of conscience? How can we communicate to our boys and girls, our sisters and brothers around the world? You matter. Your life matters. Your well-being matters. That's all it is, conscience in action. Your life matters. I want to sleep in conscience, not in the comfort of privilege and profit at the expense of. I want to sleep and speak and walk in conscience and in dignity. Yes, it's a lifelong journey, to state the obvious. May I encourage you, study the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They're easily found all over the internet. Freedom of mind, freedom of thought, freedom of speech. We're not behind the firewall of denial like in China with Xi Jinping. 1.4 billion Chinese citizens kept away from the body of knowledge and music, tattoos and hip-hop, rock and roll and Zeppelin, and God and the Bible and the Buddha. No, they can't access all of those beautiful attributes of life because of a dictatorship who denies the power of dignity and freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and freedom of conscience, denies the role of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Our role as yogis and meditators, taking refuge in Dhamma, I can't say it enough, I'll say it until I die. Remind me if I fade. Empower dignity, empower conscience, and empower a love of freedom. The last of the 10 lessons, and I'll close here, is, how should I say it? Go for your dream. Make your life a radical expression of adventure. Regardless of you being in a wheelchair, I have friends in wheelchairs. I'm not there. They have only found greater power in the vision of their visionary adventure to make life a journey of Dhamma awakening and the beautification of their relationships? What is your vision for a better tomorrow? What is your vision for the unborn on our precious planet? What are you doing, right? Get wild and passionate. Go crazy on the stage set of your visionary dream time dreaming. We are alive today in the privileges of what we have based upon other men and women and gods and goddesses all over the universe in this samsara who had the capacity and the courage. And it takes courage to dream out of the orthodoxy of the complaint that it's not enough. Make good on the promise of whatever resources you have and use them well. Light a bonfire in the beauty of your mystical dream. Set sail, walk, take the shoes off, throw the keys away. Is it all in your heart, in your friendships? Believe in yourself to enact the highest expression of why you are alive. I mean, really. I'll close here. You know, I've had so many dreams in my life. I continue to have dreams. Many years ago, I had the aspiration, based upon being with Aung San Suu Kyi and a number of her key revolutionary colleagues. I was privileged to be up close to these radical men and women, empowering the power of their voice, their dignity, their conscience, not to cower to dictatorship, regardless. And they used the power of the voice to even challenge the blindness of dictators without vilifying them. It was so beautiful to see comedy and satire, music and dance. Burma has a wonderful, creative, activist aesthetic called the Anyet, where they party and they play and they recite poetry and dance and satire and comedy and spoken word throughout the night. And they play their music and they celebrate freedom. Well, I saw one of these Anyets back on January 4th, 1996 on Freedom Day in Burma, Independence Day, and the spoken word artist U Parley spoke, and he told the audience, after 6 years of being in prison, pounding rocks for my last 2-hour gig, I know what I'm about to say today is going to land me back in prison. And he said, so be it. Freedom is more important than fear. What is your dream, Alan Clements? I thought to myself, I want to do what U Parley's doing. I want to do what Daw Su's doing. I want to do what these revolutionaries are doing. What is that? Use your life as an expression of freedom. And so I made my vow. I said, what would I say to the world if I had 24 hours to say it? No, that's too much. If I had but 1 hour, U Parley took to the stage. If I have 1 hour to say what I want to say, what will I say? And I wrote a script based on that, and then I tore it up because I don't want to be scripted. I want my life, whatever it is in those 24 minutes, 60 minutes, to be an expression of freedom. I encourage you as we close today, go for your dream. I am continually in that process of spontaneously using my improvisational presence to keep alive my freedom of thought, speech, conscience, dignity, action, and the creative expression of my own interior through the use of the spoken word, the physical word, the cognitive word, the existential word. That's my art, my Dharma, my 10 life lessons. My vision is to keep alive freedom in this world. For the unborn, for the unknown, far and near, for you and for me. Make freedom the oxygen of all that we do. The light of unity over domination. The beauty of harmony over coercion. Love freedom. Make our life deep expression of the luminosity of all expressions of freedom, unique to you. No two of us will do it alike. And if it involves two, seek consent, touch, kiss, and make love in a beautiful play of freedom. So from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in. God willing, hope to see you tomorrow. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.